Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Feuzion News. We have a big show for you right now. We have a huge guest. He's the quintessential American sports writer, writer for the Boston Globe, and host of the Bob Ryan podcast. Bob Ryan joining me now. Bob, how are you doing today?
Doing fine, Alex.
So, when you hear the word quintessential, what does that mean to you?
That Tony Kornheiser, who gave me that title, was a bit hyperbolic, but it was very nice and very flattering. And you know what it means. I know what I think. I know the context. He's thinking about, I guess, I don't know, all around. Somebody that can write fairly well, that has a historical knowledge, that does his job well, I guess. I mean, it was very flattering, and it's kind of stuck, and it's really nice of him to have done that.
When you watch the Yankees and the Red Sox play, you go back in history. It's kind of almost going back to the quintessential. The Red Sox and the Yankees are the quintessential rivalry here in New York and Boston. And looking at this series, what was your reaction when you saw that last night's game was not a great game for the Yankees? If you're Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman or anyone on this Yankee team, that was not how the game wanted to go for you. So going into tonight's game, how important is tonight's game for CC Sabathia?
It's important because it's the game that stands between the Yankees and the end of the season. But if you're talking about the big picture and his legacy, quote unquote, and his Hall of Fame possibilities, which are real, I think it's not important in that regard. He is what he is. His image is fixed. His numbers are there. His career is out there for all to see. I don't think that winning or losing tonight or will have an effect on any of that. It's simply about the moment. He's the man that is been given the ball due to circumstance. It's game 4. This is where he fits in the Yankee rotation. It's his turn, and he's had a reasonably good year, as he's reinvented himself along the way, from being a power pitcher into a kind of a AAA Andy Pettitte and style pitcher, and it's good enough to win a lot of games, and so that's all. But I mean, he's a pro. He's a veteran. He's certainly not going to shrink from the moment. That's the one thing the Yankees don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Last week, you wrote an article about, you said that if the Red Sox did not win the World Series, the season would not be a failure. If the Yankees don't win the World Series, would you say that this season would be a failure for them?
Well, given their history, people will look at it that way, but that's not fair. It's not fair. There's only one team, in my opinion, in that really, truly, well, maybe 2, one in each league. There's a team in each league that it would be viewed as a failure. Number one, the Dodgers, because of the totality of their 6 straight years of winning their division, all the money that they've spent. They have the best team that current money can buy. Red Sox also have the best team the American League money can buy. But we all know how they entered the playoffs. Dodgers are the one team. In the American League, the Astros are the favorites. I'm sorry, they should be. It's anybody that's paying attention to how the Red Sox entered the playoffs, with the precarious pitching circumstance in which they did so, and how the Astros are playing now, and the assets they have, the best well-rounded team in the American League. They're the favorites, but so I think people were expecting them, would be expecting them to win. But people, the Red Sox won 108. Oh, that's nice. But if you parse it, they beat up the way you should on the weak sisters, and they were just so against the Yankees, the Astros, and the Indians. That should have told people something. A, and B, we know the state in which they entered with regard to the pitching. That Chris Sale has this bum shoulder, and no one knows exactly what to expect from him at any given point now. B, Price has this dismal postseason history, although not as dismal as if you examine it as the numbers indicate, but not a good one, not a successful one, and he came up small again. And C, Porcello he won 17 with a ERA over 4, and is erratic and not trustworthy. And the bullpen, we all know, is erratic. So that's the state in which they entered the playoffs. So if anybody's paying attention, the hell with the 108 doesn't mean a damn thing.
If you are the owner of the Red Sox, how concerned are you with this Red Sox bullpen going forward? In the playoffs, it's a completely different atmosphere from the regular season. The playoffs, you are reliant on the bullpen. In game 2, you're calling to the bullpen in the second inning, and the bullpen held it together for game one as best as possible. Not really. The Red Sox were lucky with the win. But how reliant do you need to be on the bullpen going forward this season? How nervous are you if you're the Red Sox owner?
I'm as nervous as I would be as nervous as I was 72 hours ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. And I have a general manager who has been, I won't say cavalier, but has not addressed the bullpen with the same urgency as many of his peers going back to his time in Detroit. And so he had an opportunity to try to move heaven and earth to get somebody on July 31st, and he did not do so. Chose to stick with what he had. Maybe he made some overtures, but nothing that they were seeing. Now, maybe it's a case that they did not have the goods. You know, the farm system has been utilized in his time tenure to get some important people, such as Sale, and they don't maybe have any appealing enough prospects left anymore. But all I know is that the Indians got Brad Hand, and the Yankees got Zach Britton, and the Red Sox got Squad Douche, as my friend Tony Reale would say, and that's where we are. So of course you're nervous with it.
Mm-hmm. I said last week that the Red Sox are a great team, but would make them a legendary team would if they had one or two guys in that bullpen like a Zach Britton, like a Brad Hand, like you just mentioned. They would be phenomenal.
Well, they would certainly be in a better position to get it done, and they're going to have to make do with what they had now. And they've gotten the first game they didn't get good service, but they actually they did in a sense. So it's eventually. We'll see, but they're counting on guys. They got a guy that's pitched twice now that wasn't even on the roster when the series started, Heath Hembry, because he had to replace. He was left off because he was gopher ball prone and walk prone, and in the last month or so, and Stephen Wright was injured, and so he was replacing him, and now he's being used. That kind of tells you the situation that they're in. They had to go and use Rick Porcello for two valuable outs, and that worked in that game. In game one, that worked, and so now he's back pitching. But yeah, we can't belabor it. I mean, the fact is that's the story. When we're rating the bullpens of the teams that are left, certainly there were teams with better bullpens.
Mm-hmm. Bob, let's switch gears now and talk a little about your career. I did some research. You were a second-year student at Boston College when you were doing play-by-play for BC basketball. And at halftime, Red Auerbach came over to you, and it was an unexpected interview. And you weren't really expecting to interview him at the time. So looking back at it now, is there any question that you did not ask him that day that you would ask him today, if you had the chance?
Oh, well, God, that's a funny question. I remember asking him something about the the Celtics situation with regard to the standings at that time. This is 1965-66 season. It was themselves and the 76ers and battling for the then Eastern Division. And I think he didn't embarrass me, but he kind of downplayed, that it doesn't matter where they were in the standing at that point. I don't remember any other questions, so no, I don't. It's hard to remember back. That's 52 years ago, but I do know I can remember seeing him ambling in that famous Red Auerbach stride across the court, and I am pooping in my pants. I mean, come on, I'm 20 years old. I was not prepared for this. He was there to scout John Austin, who was our great guard at the time, and it was very nice of him to come on, and unfortunately we've got a photo to preserve it for forever and ever, and I got him to sign that photo, and I'm really, it's really a wonderful little treasure to have.
Mm-hmm. You have covered the NBA for many years to this day, and how has the NBA changed from when you first started covering it to today?
I would say that the NBA has gone from a mom and pop convenience store on the corner to the most modern, to Amazon. It's gone. That's where we are. There's not even any real serious comparison in the business model, the business practice, the scope of it. Giving you an example, in my first year, which was 1969-70, the entirety of the league office was 8 people, 3 of whom were secretaries, and that was it. The entirety of the league office was 8 people, and no team had more than 10 or 12 employees overall, beyond the coaching staff and the players and the staff. That's the way of the world. That's the league. And the arenas were, quite a few of them were in the 8, 9, 10, 12 1,000-seat capacity area. Travel was all commercial. Players literally carried their own bags, or checked in themselves. The things that these guys today would not even remotely conceive of. And I mean, just so many things. The social circumstance was totally different. The practices were all open for anyone, and there weren't many people who were even around to come. But I was able to do that for the Globe, get them their players in a way that you can't know them today, and they know you, which is even more important. And trust you build up trust and relationships. That's all gone. You don't have the opportunity when you go to a game. You have a lousy seat. So I always kid about the fact that I look down at the courtside seats and some 5-year-old kids eating ice cream where some writer should be, and it's the gospel truth. They don't care about the printed press. They don't even care about their own radio. They treat radio with disdain. The only thing that the owners now care about is television, local and national. And then the game itself obviously has changed. The biggest sea change by far is the hostile takeover of the 3-point shot and how you want to play the game. That took a long time to develop into what it is today. It was certainly very slow in coming once it was there. People didn't embrace it very much, or even they were almost afraid of it. And it was a toy. Now it's the currency of the realm, as we say. So there's so many ways the game is different.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite segments on this show is Fast 5 Questions. Bob, what is your favorite sports argument?
The greatest sports argument that you can have 24/7, 365, and is Baseball Hall of Fame. It's the one topic where more people have opinions and feel an emotion and think that they know something, which is fair and fine, because baseball is the best conversational sport. Nobody can seriously argue what the offensive and defensive linemen should be in the Hall of Fame. They can only go in what they are told by the experts. For example, but in baseball still remains the Hall of Fame against which all the others are measured. I think that's the greatest ongoing topic in sports.
Well, this wasn't on my question, but Bob, you bring that up. I interviewed him 2 weeks ago on my show. Curt Schilling, Hall of Fame or no?
Oh, positively. Okay. Hall of Fame jerk and Hall of Fame pitcher. They don't have to be. They're mutually exclusive. I'm a big advocate of him. I don't get why people don't get it. If they look at the record, they would see that the only time he wasn't a great pitcher, not just good, great, is any time he was injured. Whenever he was uninjured, he was a great pitcher. And then you get to the postseason, 11-2 with a 2.23, but you can check that out, doing this off the top of my head, record. And to me, it's open and shut. I hope to God that no one is keeping him out because they don't like his politics. I don't think anyone is, but it's conceivable someone might be. But I hope that has nothing to do with it. That's a topic for another day. But I totally think Curt Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, second Fast 5. If the 2004 Red Sox and the 2018 Red Sox face off in a 7-game series, who would win?
I got to favor 04 because I trust the pitching. Mm-hmm. I trust what they could go out there in the pitching. And remember, the guy that won a game in each of the 3 series was not even their top starter, but he rose to the occasion. That was Derek Lowe. And that lineup was potent. That'd be fun to see. I mean, obviously, any of those things are fun. But I would, they had a reliable closer in Folk. And they had, I just think they had more reliable pitching. Now the game's changed, and I know it's a bullpen game, but even that being the case, the Red Sox are not in the forefront of these great bullpens. So I would have to say, if I had to put my money down, or you put that proverbial mythical gun to my head, I would pick the 04 Red Sox at 7.
Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, Casablanca. And it's such a cliche, to say that, but there's a reason. It's great. That more good lines, it's just the feel. I just totally. I have a poster in my office. I've got posters of my favorite musician, Count Basie, my favorite all-time athlete, Babe Ruth, and my favorite movie, Casablanca, among other things that are in my office. And that's an easy one for me. I could watch that movie once a week easily for the rest of the time.
Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of sports broadcasters?
Okay. That means I got to restrict to 4. That's a tough one. I wish I had more time because I'm going to forget somebody or I'm going to leave somebody off. But I think all around, somewhere in there would have to be Kurt Gowdy. It would have to be, I would think, somewhere in there would Vince Scully clearly. That's an easy one. I would think. I'm just trying to think to be really careful with this. I think the best basketball announcer all around, radio and TV, and particularly is Marv. I really do. And we know he handles other sports as well, and this most versatile guy, and one of the few guys that could do baseball and hockey. So I'm going to put Marv in there for that very simple reason. Basketball and hockey, there are a handful of people. Sean McDonough could do that as well, but there aren't many guys that are basketball guys who could even begin to cope with a hockey. They wouldn't even know the rules. Marv was great at both, and I don't know. I'm very partial to Red Barber as a baseball announcer, but another names I could throw. I could throw Costas in there. Costas is a great all-around announcer. Now we're up to 5, and that's the problem. So, but it's fodder for discussion. But I would say I'll live with those choices. But I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody very obvious.
What is your favorite Olympic sport and why?
Well, my favorite Olympic sport is basketball, but I'm a basketball guy. But non-basketball, let's put that aside because that's almost unfair. In the winter, I found that I became very interested in the cross-country skiers because I was introduced to it in Norway in 1994, and Lillehammer, and that was the greatest idyllic Olympics of my time, and one of the two that people always cite as the best of all, with the other being Sarajevo. So I would, those guys are the most cardiovascularly fit, amazing people. And if you want to talk about an event of events, then I'll give you the 50K cross country. And to see that site in Norway in that time was a fantastic thing. So I would say that. But beyond that, in the Summer Olympics. It's a good question. It really is. Obviously, when there's a marquee track and field event, I was privileged to be when Michael Johnson broke the 220 record with that incredible look on his face in Atlanta in '96. I've seen some big things in the Olympics there. But I'll tell you a sport that it's never caught on in America, but we should be good at it. And we have if our athletes concentrated on it, I think we'd be devastating. But we've never taken up the sport, and it's never caught on. But it's got a lot of elements that Americans like. Team handball, which is a big thing in Northern Europe, and but we should be good at that. It's a combination of basketball and volleyball, and we should be good at it, but we're not.
Bob, last question before we wrap up this interview. How different is it covering the Olympics compared to maybe a collegiate or professional sport?
Oh, I love it. Totally different change of pace. First of all, the logistics are different. The way you don't get the access that we're used to. You go to, they call the mixed zone, or in Spanish, the zona mixta, or the zone mixta en français, and you hang over a railing and you try to get guys. It's not, but so that part is hard and frustrating often. And they're really, but I love the press conferences with the multi-languages, and some of the stuff that comes out of that is hilarious. I love the feel of it. I love seeing the international flavor. It was such a great break. The summer one's coming in the middle of the summer, and a break from the American routine, and the winter one coming in February always, and break from the American routine for a couple of weeks, and you were anxious to get back, but it was special always. I totally love the Olympics. We decry what's the doping and the cheating and the stuff the sausage factory aspect of it is. But then again, as we're finding out in the trial in New York City right now, do you really want to know how the college basketball sausage is made? And the answer for most people is no. Please don't tell me. You would be throwing up if you really want to know. But I'm digressing, aren't I? So the Olympics, I love the Olympics.
Well, Bob, thank you again for coming on my show today. And final prediction, Red Sox-Yankees tonight. Are the Yankees going to come back like what the Red Sox did in 2004?
This is an interesting thing because of the pitching setup. I like Porcello better than Sabathia in this game, and the way he's been pitching and the way he pitched against the Yankees. It's one of the best games the Red Sox had. He pitched the best game against them this year that they got from anyone, and the Yankees, one of the best games against the Yankees anyone pitched against them. The thing about it, though, I'd love to know a stat, Alex. I'd like to know how many games the Yankees went, how many times they went 2 games in a row at home without a home run. I bet very seldom, if at all. I'd love to know that. I'm going to try to look it up one more time. I'm curious. But it's going to be hard to hold them down. But I think it's a 50-50 shot. I know that's an equivocation, but I'm sorry. It's the way I feel. I think the winner of this game wins. Will win the probably. Well, I shouldn't say that because God knows every game's different. So I'm feeling better than I thought I would about Porcello 2 weeks ago. I was kind of downgrading Porcello, but somehow I'm starting to think maybe he's got something in him.
Like the great John Sterling always says, you can't predict baseball, Susan, right?
Oh, baseball. Look, what I say is that there is no more, and this is about any regular season game, but this is baseball in general. There is no more inconsequential sampling in all of North American sport than one baseball game, because even the worst team, the 1962 Mets won 40 times. 40 times they won. It can happen. A well-pitched game, a line drive out. Baseball has more vagaries. You can hit a 430-foot out, and you can have a 10-foot, 15-foot dribbler breaking the winning run in the World Series. Somebody could pitch a perfect game with 27 line drive outs. That's one reason why I love baseball as opposed to everything else. The most is it absolutely has the most the most variables of all, the most unpredictable stuff that can affect the game in so many ways. And then you throw in the ballpark factor. You realize that the first 2 balls the Red Sox hit last night would have been home runs in Fenway or many, many other ballparks, but they hit the ball to the wrong part of Yankee Stadium. And that's the way baseball is. Baseball parks are part of the deal in the way that football stadia, hockey arenas, and basketball arenas really aren't. So it's part of the fun of baseball.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bob, I want to say thank you again for coming on my show today and talking a little about your career in baseball in general and some basketball.
Okay, and good luck to you. Thank you.
All right, Feuzion, you just heard it from the legend here in Boston, Mass, Bob Bryan. He's one of the quintessential sports writers in all of American history, like I just said at the beginning of the show. Thank you for listening. It's going to be a big night tonight for the Yankees, must-win game to see if they are going home or staying in this division. All right, Feuzion, thanks again for listening, and I will be seeing you all very soon. Thanks for listening.